Hey guys! Tonight we slip into the cool, star-dusted highlands of ancient Ethiopia, where the air smells of damp earth and something faintly sweet, like fruit left too long in the sun. Picture yourself barefoot on a rocky trail, the sky above a velvet quilt of stars, and somewhere nearby, a goatherd hums a tune older than memory itself. You're here to unravel how coffee, yes, that magical bean keeping half the world awake, first sparked to life in these misty hills. Fair warning. You might not survive the sheer tranquility of this tale, as it's designed to lull you into a deep, dreamy sleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off from tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand in the Ethiopia of 1,000 years ago, or maybe more. Time's a bit wobbly here, like a dream you're half remembering. The night is alive with sounds. Crickets chirping, a distant hyena's laugh, and the rustle of leaves as a breeze sweeps through the highland valleys. You're in the region of Kaffa, where historians say coffee got its name. The air's crisp, and your breath catches as you spot a cluster of wild shrubs, their dark leaves glinting under moonlight. These are no ordinary plants. Nestled among them are small, red cherries, coffee cherries, though nobody calls them that yet. You squat down, running your fingers over one. It's waxy, warm from the day's sun, and you can't help but wonder what secrets it holds. The mainstream fact is that Ethiopia is coffee's birthplace, with records suggesting its use as early as the 9th century. Archaeologists have found traces of coffee residue in ancient pottery, proof it wasn't just a passing fad. But here's the quirky bit. Some locals still chew coffee cherries raw, spitting out the pits like sunflower seeds, claiming it's a pick-me-up older than brewing itself. You pop one in your mouth, and it's tart, like unripe berries, with a faint buzz that makes you smirk. Historians still argue whether coffee started as a food or a drink. Did people munch the cherries first, or boil them into a bitter brew? No one's dug up a definitive answer, and that's part of the charm. You wander deeper into the night, following a faint trail of smoke. It's not just the landscape pulling you in, it's the stories. Locals whisper of a goatherd named Kaldi, whose tale we'll chase soon enough. For now, you're struck by how alive this place feels, even in its quiet. The stars seem to pulse, like they're in on the secret of coffee's birth. You pause by a gnarled tree, its roots sprawling like ancient fingers. A modern aside. If you think your morning Starbucks is a ritual, imagine these folks, who treated coffee like a gift from the gods. You chuckle. Your barista's latte art has nothing on what's coming. The shrubs around you are wild, untamed, not like the neat rows of modern plantations. You notice how they thrive in the shade of taller trees, a natural trick farmers still use today. It's called shade-grown coffee, and it's why Ethiopian brews taste like a forest bottled up. You kneel again, sifting dirt through your fingers. It's rich, loamy, the kind of soil that makes you want to plant something just to see what grows. A light joke. If you tried gardening here, you'd probably end up with a coffee empire by accident. Too bad you forgot your shovel back in the 21st century. As you rise, a faint glow flickers in the distance. A village, maybe, or a lone fire. Your curiosity pulls you forward. You're not just chasing coffee, you're chasing the moment it went from a wild plant to something sacred, something shared. The night feels heavier now, not with sleep but with possibility. You glance up, and the stars seem to nod, urging you on. This isn't just a drink's origin story, it's a thread in the tapestry of human connection, woven under this very sky. You take a deep breath, letting the cool air fill your lungs, and step toward the glow, ready for what's next. You trudge through the Ethiopian highlands, the starlight casting long shadows that dance across the rocky path. The air's sharp with the scent of wild herbs, and your sandals, well, imaginary ones, since you're cozy in bed, kick up dust that sparkles faintly in the moonlight. You're chasing a story now, one that's half legend, half truth, about a goatherd named Kaldi and his peculiar flock. The night hums around you, alive with the chirps of unseen insects and the occasional bleat of a goat echoing from a nearby hill. You're deep in ancient Kaffa, where coffee's tale begins to take shape, and the glow of a distant fire pulls you closer, like a moth to a flame. You crest a hill and spot him, Kaldi, a young goatherd, sprawled on a flat rock, his staff propped against a gnarled tree. His goats, a scruffy bunch with curling horns, are prancing around a cluster of shrubs, their hooves clicking on stone. You squint and see the shrubs are dotted with red coffee cherries, gleaming like tiny rubies under the stars. Kaldi's muttering to himself, clearly puzzled, as his goats leap and twirl, more like dancers than livestock. You stifle a chuckle. Imagine explaining this to your local coffee shop barista. Yeah, my latte started with some hyper goats. The mainstream fact here is that Kaldi's tale, while likely embellished, is Ethiopia's most famous coffee origin story, recorded in oral traditions and later by European travelers in the 17th century. The quirky tidbit? Some versions claim Kaldi's goats didn't just get frisky, they sang asterisk, their bleats turning melodic after munching those cherries. You lean closer, half expecting a goat to break into an aria, but all you hear is enthusiastic chewing. Historians still argue whether Kaldi was a real person or a folk hero cooked up to explain coffee's buzz. Did one guy spark the craze, or was it a slow, collective discovery? The truth's as murky as an overbrewed espresso. You settle on a nearby rock, watching Kaldi scratch his head. He's young, maybe 16, with a woven shawl draped over his shoulders. His eyes dart between the goats and the shrubs, piecing things together. You can almost hear his thoughts. What's got them so wild? He crawls toward the shrubs, plucking a cherry and rolling it between his fingers. You nod approvingly, detective work, ancient style. A modern aside. If Kaldi had Wi-Fi, he'd probably Google, "Why are my goats acting like they chugged Red Bull?" Lucky for us, he's stuck with good old-fashioned curiosity. Kaldi pops a cherry into his mouth, and you wince as he grimaces at the tartness. Spitting out the pit, he tries another, then another, his frown softening. You can't blame him, there's something addictive about the fruit's strange mix of sweet and bitter. You imagine him feeling a tiny jolt, like the first sip of your morning brew, though he's got no clue what caffeine is. You smirk, a light joke. If Caldi knew he was kickstarting a global obsession, he'd probably demand a cut of every coffee shop's profits. The goats keep at it, stripping cherries from the shrubs, their energy relentless. You notice how the plants grow wild, tangled among taller trees, their leaves catching starlight. The scene feels timeless, like you've stumbled into the exact moment coffee went from plant to phenomenon. Caldi stands, brushing dirt from his hands, and starts herding his flock toward the village. The fire's glow now brighter. You follow, keeping pace, your own curiosity burning. He's muttering again, maybe planning to tell someone, a shaman, an elder, about these strange red fruits. As you walk, the night wraps around you, cool and heavy. The stars seem to wink, as if they've seen this story play out 1,000 times. You glance back at the shrubs, their cherries still glowing faintly. This is more than a goat herd's odd night, it's the spark of something huge, a drink that'll cross deserts and oceans. You feel a pang of awe, mixed with sleepy calm, as Caldi's silhouette fades into the darkness. The village fire beckons, and you know the story's just beginning. You weave through the Ethiopian highlands, the night air cool against your skin, carrying whispers of pine and damp earth. The stars above burn bright, a celestial map guiding you deeper into Kaffa's misty valleys. You're no longer trailing Caldi, his goats have scampered off, leaving you alone with the wild, untamed landscape where coffee first took root. The ground beneath your feet, soft, loamy soil sprinkled with pebbles, crunches faintly, and you catch the sweet tang of those red coffee cherries lingering on the breeze. Somewhere nearby, a stream gurgles, its rhythm blending with the hum of nocturnal life. You're here to explore the highlands themselves, the cradle of coffee's story, where nature and chance conspired under a starlit sky. You pause by a cluster of coffee shrubs, their glossy leaves brushing your hands as you kneel. These aren't the manicured plants of modern farms, they're wild, sprawling, half hidden in the shade of towering acacias. The cherries dangle like tiny ornaments, some red, some still green, swaying as a gust sweeps through. You inhale deeply, and the scent hits you, fruity, almost floral, with a hint of something earthy, like the promise of your morning brew. A modern aside: if you tried bottling this air, you'd make a fortune selling it as essence of coffee's birthplace. Too bad you're stuck in dreamland with no trademark lawyer. The mainstream fact is that Ethiopia's highlands, with their altitude of 1,500 to 2,200 meters, created the perfect conditions for coffee to thrive: rich soil, ample shade, and just enough rain. Botanists have traced *Coffea arabica's origins here, its genetic diversity still unmatched anywhere else. The quirky tidbit? Locals once believed the shrubs were guarded by spirits, and picking cherries at night risked a curse, though clearly, Caldi's goats didn't get the memo. You glance around, half expecting a ghostly figure to shoo you away, but all you see are shadows dancing in the starlight. Historians still argue whether coffee spread from Kaffa or another highland region like Sidamo. Did one valley kick it all off, or was it a happy accident across multiple slopes? The debate's as endless as a late-night Wikipedia binge. You wander deeper, following a narrow trail that snakes through the mist. The highlands feel alive, their ridges and valleys folding into each other like a crumpled blanket. You notice how the coffee shrubs cluster in pockets, thriving where the canopy filters sunlight just right. A light joke. If you were a plant, you'd pick this spot too. Great views, no rent, and zero chance of a bad Yelp review. You reach out, plucking a cherry and rolling it between your fingers. It's warm, firm, and you can't resist popping it into your mouth. The pulp's tart, the pit hard as a pebble. You spit it out, grinning at your own impulsiveness. The mist thickens, curling around your ankles like a sleepy cat. You hear the faint hoot of an owl, and it's oddly soothing, like nature's own lullaby. You imagine ancient foragers stumbling across these shrubs, maybe centuries before Chaldee, experimenting with the cherries out of hunger or boredom. Did they chew them raw? Boil them? Toss them into a fire and sniff the smoke? You picture a lone wanderer, starlight glinting off their spear, pausing to gather a handful of cherries, unaware they're holding the seeds of a global obsession. As you climb a gentle slope, the view opens up, a sea of hills stretching toward the horizon, each one cradling its own coffee shrubs. The stars seem closer now, their light soft but insistent, urging you to keep going. You feel a quiet awe, mixed with that drowsy calm that's starting to creep in. These highlands aren't just dirt and plants, they're the stage for a story that's still unfolding, one sip at a time. You take a deep breath, letting the misty air fill your lungs, and step forward, ready for the next chapter under this endless sky. You drift through the Ethiopian highlands, the night wrapping you in a cool, misty embrace, the stars above like scattered embers in a velvet sky. The scent of wild coffee cherries lingers, faint but persistent, mingling with the smoky tang of burning wood. You follow that smell, your feet padding softly on a path worn smooth by countless wanderers. The air hums with the low drone of insects and the occasional rustle of leaves, but a new sound cuts through, a rhythmic chant, rising and falling like a tide. You're drawn toward a clearing, where a shaman conducts a starlit ritual, roasting coffee beans in a ceremony as old as the hills themselves. You crouch behind a gnarled tree, peering into the clearing. A small fire crackles, its flames licking a flat stone where dark coffee beans sizzle and pop. The shaman, draped in a woven cloak dyed with ochre, moves with deliberate grace, his hands waving a bundle of herbs through the smoke. His voice, gravelly yet soothing, weaves a chant you can't understand but feel in your bones. You inhale, and the aroma hits you, rich, nutty, almost chocolatey, the first whisper of roasted coffee. A modern aside. Forget your fancy pour-over setup, this guy's turning beans into magic with a rock and a prayer. The mainstream fact is that roasting coffee likely began in Ethiopia before spreading to Arabia, with early methods involving stones or clay pans heated over open fires. The quirky tidbit? Some shamans claimed the smoke from roasting beans carried messages to the spirits, a sort of ancient Wi-Fi for divine DMs. You smirk, imagining the shaman checking his ethereal inbox for a reply. Historians still argue whether these rituals were purely spiritual or also social. Did the roasting start as worship, or was it a clever way to gather the village for a caffeine-fueled chat? The answer's lost in the haze of time, like steam off a fresh brew. You edge closer, the firelight flickering across your face. The shaman scatters more beans onto the stone, their husks crackling as they darken. You notice a small crowd, villagers, their faces half-lit, watching in reverent silence. A child fidgets, earning a gentle nudge from an elder. You can't help but feel the weight of this moment, the way the fire and the chant and the beans weave something sacred. A light joke. If you tried this at home, you'd probably set off the smoke alarm and get a stern email from your wall. But here, it's art, maybe even alchemy. The shaman lifts the stone, tipping the roasted beans into a woven basket. The smell intensifies, and you swear it's pulling you into a trance. He grinds a few beans with a handheld stone, the motion slow and deliberate, releasing a scent that's both comforting and electrifying. You imagine him offering the grounds to the fire, the stars, the night itself, as if coffee's power demands respect. You glance up, and the constellations seem to pulse, approvingly, like they're in on the secret. You shift your weight, a twig snapping underfoot, and a villager glances your way. You freeze, but their eyes soften. Maybe they think you're just another shadow. The shaman continues, now brewing the grounds in a clay pot, the water hissing as it meets the heat. You're struck by how this ritual feels both alien and familiar, like the ancestor of every coffee break you've ever taken. A second light joke. Bet your barista's double-shot macchiato spiel doesn't include chanting to the Big Dipper. As the ceremony winds down, the shaman passes small cups, carved wood, not ceramic, to the villagers. They sip slowly, their murmurs blending with the fire's crackle. You don't get a cup, but you feel the warmth anyway, the way this ritual binds the night together. The stars seem to lean closer, their light softer now, urging you toward sleep. You linger, reluctant to leave, as the shaman's chant fades into the breeze, carrying coffee's first sparks into the endless dark. You linger at the edge of the Ethiopian clearing, the shaman's chant still echoing faintly in your ears as the fire's glow dims to embers. The stars overhead burn steady, casting a soft light over the highlands, and you feel the night pulling you onward, away from the ritual's haze. Your feet find a new path, one that winds toward a village nestled in a valley, where the scent of roasted coffee clings to the air like a promise. You're here now, drawn to a firelit circle where elders share coffee's lore, their voices weaving tales as old as the hills. The ground is cool beneath you, the grass damp with dew, and a faint breeze carries the bleat of distant goats. You settle cross-legged near the fire, its warmth kissing your cheeks. The elders, 5 or 6, their faces creased like well-worn leather, pass a wooden cup, its contents steaming. They're not just drinking, they're storytelling, their words rising and falling like the flicker of the flames. You lean in, catching fragments of their tales. A spirit who gifted coffee to humans, a warrior who drank it to outrun a lion. A modern aside. Imagine pitching this to your coffee shop's chalkboard. Try our spirit-blessed latte, only $5.99. You'd be out of business by noon. The mainstream fact is that oral storytelling was central to ancient Ethiopian culture, preserving coffee's myths long before written records. These tales, passed down through generations, shaped coffee's identity as a sacred gift. The quirky tidbit? Some elders claimed coffee beans held the memories of ancestors, and drinking them let you hear their wisdom. Basically, a caffeinated Ouija board. You sip the imaginary steam from your own invisible cup, half hoping for a ghostly pep talk, but all you get is a sleepy tingle. Historians still argue whether these stories were meant to teach, entertain, or both. Were they moral lessons or just a way to keep the village up past bedtime? The debate's as tangled as the roots under your feet. One elder, her silver hair braided tight, gestures wildly, describing a time when coffee cherries saved a starving clan. You picture it. Desperate hands stripping shrubs, chewing pulp, spitting pits, the caffeine staving off hunger. Her voice is low, hypnotic, and you feel your eyelids droop, the fire's crackle blending with her words. Another elder, a man with a crooked staff, counters with a tale of a trickster who used coffee to outwit a rival tribe. You smirk. A light joke. Sounds like the world's first energy drink ad, minus the neon cans and bad jingles. You notice the cup passing again, its dark brew catching the firelight. The elders sip sparingly, savoring each drop, and you realize coffee's not just a drink here, it's a ritual, a thread tying the village to its past. You glance at the stars, remembering the shaman's smoky ceremony from before, same vibe, different stage. A second light joke. If you tried this storytelling gig at your local cafe, you'd get complaints about too much lore, not enough foam art. But here, it's perfect, the tale's as warming as the fire. The stories shift to Kaldi, that goat herd you trailed earlier. The elders chuckle, one mimicking a goat's prance, and you can't help but grin. They describe his discovery with a mix of pride and mischief, like he's a local hero who accidentally invented Wi-Fi. You imagine Kaldi blushing somewhere in the afterlife, unaware his goats sparked a global craze. The fire pops, sending a spark skyward, and you follow it with your eyes, the stars seeming to nod in approval. As the tales wind down, the elders' voices soften, their words slower, like a lullaby. You feel the night's weight, heavy but gentle, pressing you towards sleep. The village around you is quiet now, save for the fire's hiss and a distant dog's bark. You want to stay, to hear one more story, but the stars whisper it's time to move on. You rise, brushing imaginary grass from your knees, and step back into the dark, the elders' voices fading behind you, their tales of coffee glowing like embers in your mind. You slip away from the village fire, the elders' tales of coffee and tricksters fading into the cool Ethiopian night. The stars above glitter like spilled sugar, guiding you through the highlands' rolling shadows. Your feet brush against soft earth, the air thick with the scent of wildflowers and that faint, fruity whisper of coffee cherries. You're headed toward a lone hut now, its thatched roof barely visible in the moonlight. Inside, someone's grinding coffee beans, the rhythmic scrape of stone on stone pulling you closer. The night hums around you, crickets, a distant owl, the rustle of leaves, like a chorus lulling you deeper into this sleepy journey. You pause at the hut's entrance, a woven mat half covering the doorway. Peering inside, you see a woman, her hands steady as she works a stone mortar, crushing roasted beans into a coarse powder. The moonlight spills through a small window, catching the dust that rises from her efforts, each speck glinting like a tiny star. The scent is intoxicating, earthy, warm, with a hint of caramel. You breathe it in, and a modern aside pops into your head. Forget your overpriced coffee grinder, this setup's got soul, plus a free arm workout. You'd probably break the mortar in 10 seconds flat. The mainstream fact is that grinding coffee by hand, using mortars or flat stones, was standard in ancient Ethiopia, a labor-intensive step that shaped the drink's early rituals. The quirky tidbit? Some grinders swore the sound of the mortar, scrape, thump, scrape asterisk, mimicked the heartbeat of the earth, and rushing the task angered the spirits. You listen to the woman's steady rhythm, half expecting a cosmic pulse to sync up, but all you feel is a drowsy calm. Historians still argue whether grinding was a household chore or a sacred act. Did everyone do it, or was it reserved for those trained in coffee's mysteries? The question hangs like the moonlight, unanswered but shimmering. You step closer, careful not to disturb her. She's older, her face lined with stories, her fingers calloused from years of this work. The mortar's heavy, the pestle worn smooth, and you marvel at her strength. You imagine trying it yourself, your arms burning after a minute, and you stifle a chuckle, a light joke. You'd probably grind one bean and call it a day, claiming rustic vibes as an excuse. She pauses, sifting the powder with her fingers, checking its texture. Satisfied, she pours it into a clay bowl, the grains dark as the night outside. The hut's simple, just a packed earth floor and a few woven baskets, but it feels alive, like the heart of the village. You notice a small fire in the corner, its coals glowing faintly, ready to heat water for brewing. You think back to the shaman's smoky ritual, the elders' firelit tales. Coffee's everywhere here, tying moments together. A second light joke. If you lived here, your resume would just say, professional coffee sniffer, and you'd still get hired. The woman hums softly, a tune older than the hills, and you feel your eyelids droop, the grinding's rhythm sinking into your bones. You glance outside, where the highlands stretch under the stars. Night creatures stir. A rustle in the bushes, a bat's faint squeak, and you imagine them drawn to the coffee's scent, too. The woman starts again, grinding another batch, her movements hypnotic. You wonder about her life, the stories she could tell, but her focus is absolute, like she's pouring herself into each crush of the pestle. You feel a pang of awe. This isn't just prep work, it's a craft, a quiet devotion under the moonlight. As you linger, the night grows heavier, the stars softer, their light blurring at the edges. You want to stay, to watch her grind until dawn, but sleep's tugging at you, gentle as the breeze. You step back, the hut's warmth fading, and let the path carry you forward, the scrape of stone echoing in your mind, a lullaby woven from coffee's ancient roots. You wander from the moonlit hut, the rhythmic scrape of the mortar fading behind you, swallowed by the Ethiopian night. The stars above twinkle like distant campfires, their light brushing the highlands with a silvery glow. Your path meanders now, winding through clumps of wild coffee shrubs, their cherries glinting faintly. The air's cool, laced with the scent of damp earth and that nutty trace of roasted beans. You're drawn toward a faint hiss, a sound like water kissing hot clay, and spot a small fire glowing in a clearing. Here, ancient brewers are coaxing coffee's first secrets from crude pots, and you're about to witness the birth of the brew you know so well. You crouch near the clearing, the grass tickling your knees. A brewer, a wiry man with a woven headband, tends a clay pot perched over the fire's coals. The pot's rough, unglazed, its sides blackened from years of use. He pours water from a gourd, and it sizzles as it meets the ground coffee inside, releasing a puff of steam that smells like heaven, or at least a really good Monday morning. A modern aside. Forget your sleek espresso machine, this guy's brewing with gear that looks like it survived a dinosaur stampede. You'd probably spill half the pot just trying to look cool. The mainstream fact is that early coffee brewing in Ethiopia involved simple clay pots or gourds, with grounds boiled directly in water, a method still echoed in today's traditional jabena ceremonies. The quirky tidbit? Some brewers added a pinch of salt to the mix, believing it woke up the coffee's spirit. Think of it as ancient Ethiopia's version of a flavor shot. You imagine tossing salt into your latte and grimace, though you're curious what it'd taste like. Historians still argue whether brewing started as a practical act or a ritual. Did people boil coffee for the buzz, or was it another way to honor the gods? The debate's as steamy as the pot in front of you. You watch the brewer stir the mixture with a thin stick, his movements slow, almost reverent. The firelight dances across his face, and you notice his eyes, sharp and focused, like he's coaxing a secret from the brew. You lean closer, the steam warming your cheeks, and catch a whiff of something bitter yet inviting. A light joke. If you tried this at home, you'd probably burn your eyebrows off and call it artisan char. But here, it's mastery, each step deliberate, honed by generations. The brewer lifts the pot, tilting it to pour the dark liquid into small wooden cups. You notice a few villagers nearby, sitting cross-legged, their murmurs soft as they wait. The cups pass hand to hand, and you swear the air shifts, like the brew's knitting the group together. You think back to the elders' tales, the shaman's smoky ritual. Coffee's not just a drink here, it's a thread, stitching moments into memory. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's loyalty card doesn't come with this kind of vibe. Punch 10 holes. Get a free hug from the village. You study the pot, its simplicity masking its genius. The brewer adds more grounds, repeating the process, and you realize this isn't a one-and-done deal, it's a cycle, each batch stronger, richer. You imagine the trial and error it took to get here. Burnt beans, watery slop, maybe a few grumpy villagers demanding a refund in goats. The stars above seem to wink, as if they've watched centuries of brewers perfect this craft. You feel a sleepy awe, the night's calm settling into your bones. As the villagers sip, their laughter rises, soft but warm. You want a cup, but you're just a guest in this dream, so you settle for the scent, letting it pull you deeper into drowsiness. The brewer sets the pot down, the fire's glow fading, and you rise, the path calling you forward. The stars guide you, their light softer now, and the hiss of the pot lingers, a whisper of coffee's ancient alchemy. You drift from the brewer's fire, the hiss of the clay pot fading into the Ethiopian night, leaving behind a trail of that rich, bitter scent you can't shake. The stars above pulse softly, lighting your path through the highlands' rolling slopes. Your feet crunch on loose pebbles, the air sharp with the tang of wild herbs and the distant promise of dawn. You're moving now, not toward a village but along a dusty trail, one etched by centuries of footsteps. You're trekking with traders, ancient wanderers who carry coffee's secrets beyond Kaffa's hills, spreading its magic along caravan routes under the endless sky. You fall in step with a small group, their silhouettes swaying against the starlight. They're a rugged bunch, cloaked in woven shawls, staffs in hand, leading donkeys laden with sacks. You peek at one sack, its contents spilling slightly, dried coffee cherries, dark and shriveled, like tiny treasures. The traders' voices are low, a mix of bartering talk and tired laughter, their breath visible in the chilly air. A modern aside. Imagine these guys pitching coffee on Etsy, hand-picked Highland beans, 100% goat approved. You'd probably buy 2 bags just for the story. The mainstream fact is that coffee began spreading from Ethiopia around the 9th century, carried by traders along routes to Yemen and the Red Sea, laying the groundwork for its global rise. The quirky tidbit? Some traders swore coffee cherries kept their donkeys perkier on long journeys, turning pit stops into mini raves for pack animals. You glance at a donkey, its ears twitching, and smirk. Maybe it's dreaming of a double espresso. Historians still argue whether coffee's spread was driven by trade or pilgrimage. Did merchants push it for profit, or did holy men share it as a sacred gift? The trail's dust holds no clear answer, just whispers of both. You keep pace, the traders' sandals slapping the earth. They're headed for a coastal market, days away, where coffee will trade hands for salt, cloth, or stories. You notice one trader, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, clutching a small pouch of beans like it's gold. He catches you staring. Well, not really, you're just a sleepy ghost here, and tucks it closer. You grin, imagining him haggling with a Yemeni merchant, hyping coffee's buzz like it's the next big thing. A light joke. If you were a trader, you'd probably swap your whole stash for a nap and a Wi-Fi signal. The trail climbs, and you feel the altitude in your imaginary lungs, the air thinner but alive with possibility. You pass a cluster of wild coffee shrubs, their cherries glowing faintly, and you think back to Chaldee's goats, the shaman's smoky ritual. Coffee's journey started there, but these traders are its wings, carrying it beyond the highlands. You picture the beans rattling in sacks, crossing deserts, boarding ships, each step a spark in a chain that'll light up the world. A second light joke. Bet your barista's bean of the day spiel doesn't mention donkey caravans. Kinda kills the artisanal vibe. The stars shift overhead, and you notice the traders pausing to rest, their fire a pinprick against the dark. They brew coffee, of course, using a battered pot not unlike the one you saw before. The scent pulls you in, but you stay back, watching them sip and murmur, their faces softened by the glow. You feel a sleepy awe. This isn't just trade, it's the start of something huge, a drink that'll outlive empires. The night wraps you tighter, the stars dimming as dawn's first hint brushes the horizon. You linger a moment, the traders' voices fading, then turn back to the path. The highlands stretch behind you, their secrets safe but no longer hidden. You take a deep breath, the cool air tinged with coffee's ghost, and step forward, the stars urging you on, their light a gentle nudge toward sleep. You ease away from the traders' caravan, their fire's faint glow swallowed by the vast Ethiopian night. The stars above shimmer, a celestial quilt draped over the highlands, guiding you back toward Kaffa's heart. Your footsteps are soft on the loamy soil, the air cool and heavy with the scent of wild coffee shrubs and distant wood smoke. You're drawn now to a quiet grove, where a small shrine, little more than stacked stones and woven reeds, sits bathed in moonlight. This is no trader's pit stop, it's a sacred space, where coffee's spiritual roots run deep, tying the drink to rituals that hum under the starlit sky. You kneel by the shrine, its stones cool against your fingers. A clay cup rests at its base, filled with dark coffee grounds, an offering to unseen forces. The air feels different here, thicker, like it's holding its breath. You hear a soft chant, barely audible, rising from a figure cloaked in shadow, swaying gently. It's a priestess, her voice weaving prayers into the night, and you realize coffee's not just a drink here, it's a bridge to the divine. A modern aside. Imagine your local coffee shop with a sacred brew menu, $8 for latte, $12 if you want it blessed. You'd probably stick to decaf. The mainstream fact is that coffee held spiritual significance in ancient Ethiopia, often used in rituals to honor ancestors or commune with spirits, predating its commercial spread. The quirky tidbit? Some priests believed coffee's stimulating effect was a gift from the gods, letting mortals glimpse eternity. Basically, a holy Red Bull with better vibes. You inhale the cup's faint aroma, half expecting a divine PowerPoint presentation, but all you get is a sleepy tingle. Historians still argue whether coffee's sacred role was widespread or limited to specific clans. Did every village pray over their brew, or was it a niche practice lost to time? The shrine's silence offers no clues, just mystery. You watch the priestess, her hands tracing patterns in the air, as if drawing the stars into her ritual. She scatters a few roasted beans around the shrine, their dark shapes blending with the earth. You think back to the shaman's smoky ceremony, the elders' tales, coffees woven into every layer of this place, from goats to gods. A light joke. If you tried this ritual at home, you'd probably trip over the incense and accidentally summon your neighbor's cat. But here, it's seamless, the priestess moving like she's danced this dance for centuries. The grove around you is alive, its coffee shrubs rustling softly, their cherries catching moonlight like tiny lanterns. You notice small offerings tied to the branches, beads, scraps of cloth, each one a plea or a thank you. You imagine villagers coming here, whispering their hopes over a cup of brew, the caffeine sharpening their prayers. A second light joke. Bet your morning coffee doesn't double as a spiritual hotline, unless you count begging your espresso machine not to break. The priestess pauses, sipping from her own cup, and you swear the stars brighten, as if nodding approval. You shift, a twig snapping underfoot, but the priestess doesn't flinch. She's lost in her rite, her chant a lullaby that pulls you deeper into drowsiness. You feel the grove's weight, its sacred hush, and it's like the night itself is brewing something holy. You glance at the shrine, its simplicity masking a power you can't quite name. The stars seem closer now, their light soft but insistent, urging you toward sleep. You want to stay, to hear the priestess's next prayer, but the path calls, its pull gentle as a dream. You rise, brushing dirt from your knees, and step back into the highlands. The shrine fades behind you, but its warmth lingers, like the aftertaste of a perfect sip. The night wraps you tighter, the stars dimming slightly, and you move forward, the priestess's chant echoing in your mind, a whisper of coffee's sacred roots. You slip away from the sacred grove, the priestess's chant fading into the Ethiopian night like a half-remembered dream. The stars above glow softly, their light weaving through the highlands' misty air, guiding you toward a new pulse of life. Your feet find a path of packed earth, the scent of wild coffee cherries mingling with the smoky warmth of burning wood. You hear laughter now, low and rolling, mixed with the clink of wooden cups. You're approaching a village feast, where coffee fuels late-night stories under the vast, starlit sky, binding the community in a ritual as old as the hills. You reach the village's edge, where a wide clearing hums with activity. A bonfire crackles at the center, its flames casting golden flickers across dozens of faces, young, old, all gathered in a loose circle. They're seated on woven mats, passing cups of dark, steaming coffee, the aroma so rich you can almost taste it. Children dart between adults, giggling, while an elder strums a single-stringed instrument, its notes weaving through the chatter. A modern aside. Forget your Netflix binge, this is the original late-night streaming, powered by caffeine and community. You'd probably spill your cup trying to keep up with the vibe. The mainstream fact is that coffee ceremonies in ancient Ethiopia were social cornerstones, often lasting hours, strengthening bonds through shared brews and stories. The quirky tidbit? Some feasts featured coffee dances, where drinkers swayed to mimic Chaldees' frisky goats, a tradition that sounds like a proto-caffeine rave. You scan the crowd, half hoping for a goat-inspired twirl, but they're too busy sipping and laughing. Historians still argue whether these feasts were purely social or had spiritual undertones. Were they just parties, or did they double as offerings to ancestors? The fire's glow offers no clear answer, just warmth. You settle on the outskirts, the grass cool beneath you, and watch a woman pour coffee from a clay jabana asterisk, its spout releasing steam like a dragon's breath. She moves with grace, filling cups with precision, and you're struck by the care in every gesture. You think back to the brewer's crude pot, the priestess's sacred cup. Coffee's everywhere here, a thread stitching moments together. A light joke. If you tried hosting this feast, you'd probably run out of coffee in 10 minutes and resort to serving instant. Talk about a party foul. The stories start flowing, sparked by the brew. A young man recounts a hunt, his hands mimicking a spear's thrust, while an elder interrupts with a tale of a star that fell into a coffee grove, blessing the harvest. You lean in, the fire's crackle blending with their voices, and feel your eyelids droop, the caffeine's buzz no match for the night's lullaby. Another cup passes, and you notice how the drinkers savor it, letting the bitter warmth linger. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's quick grab and go vibe doesn't include 3-hour storytelling sessions, unless the barista's got a side hustle as a bard. You glance at the stars, their light softer now, as if they're listening too. The feast feels timeless, like you've stumbled into a moment that could be yesterday or 1,000 years ago. You imagine Chaldee's goats prancing somewhere in the tales, their legacy alive in every sip. The music shifts, the instruments hum growing slower, and you feel the night's weight, heavy but gentle, pulling you toward sleep. The villagers' laughter rises once more, a warm wave that carries you along. You want to stay, to taste that coffee and join the stories, but the path beckons, its pull as soft as the breeze. You rise, brushing imaginary dust from your hands, and step back into the dark, the bonfire's glow fading behind you. The stars guide you forward, their light a whisper of the feast's warmth, and the scent of coffee lingers, a promise of more tales to come. You drift from the village feast, the laughter and clink of coffee cups fading into the Ethiopian night, like embers cooling in the dark. The stars above shimmer, their light slicing through the highland mist, guiding you along a rocky trail. The air's crisp, carrying the faint sweetness of wild coffee cherries and the earthy tang of dew-soaked grass. You're alone now, save for the hum of nocturnal creatures, crickets, a distant jackal's yip, and your own steady breaths. But your solitude doesn't last. You're about to ponder the hidden chemistry of coffee, the invisible spark that turned a humble bean into a starlit obsession. You pause by a cluster of coffee shrubs, their red cherries glowing faintly under the moonlight. Kneeling, you pluck one, rolling it between your fingers, its waxy skin warm from the day's heat. You pop it into your mouth, the tart pulp bursting against your tongue, and feel a tiny jolt, not much, but enough to make you wonder. What's in this thing? You're no scientist, but you sense there's magic here, or at least something close. A modern aside. Imagine trying to explain caffeine to a villager here. They'd probably think you're ranting about wizardry, and honestly, you'd half agree. The mainstream fact is that coffee's stimulating effect comes from caffeine, a natural alkaloid that boosts alertness by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain, a discovery traced back to Ethiopia's early users. The quirky tidbit? Ancient Ethiopians sometimes mixed coffee cherries with animal fat to make portable energy balls. Think of it as the world's first protein bar, but way less Instagrammable. You grimace, imagining the taste, and decide your morning brew's a better deal. Historians still argue whether people valued coffee for its buzz or its taste first. Did they chase the energy, or was the bitter sip just a happy bonus? The shrubs around you stay silent, their secrets locked tight. You rise, brushing dirt from your knees, and wander deeper into the night. The stars seem to pulse, as if they're in on coffee's trick. You picture those early experimenters, maybe Chaldi, maybe a curious elder, munching cherries, noticing their heart race, their sleep slip away. You chuckle, a light joke. If you discovered caffeine today, you'd probably patent it, slap on a logo, and sell it as Starlit Zest. But here, it's raw, unbranded, a gift from the earth. You think back to the feast, the shaman's smoky ritual. Everyone felt something asterisk, even if they didn't have a periodic table to explain it. You find a flat rock and sit, the night's chill seeping through your imaginary cloak. You imagine the chemistry at work. Caffeine molecules sneaking into brains, nudging neurons, sparking chatter and late-night tales. It's not just a drink, it's a catalyst, turning quiet nights into buzzing gatherings. You glance at the shrubs again, their leaves rustling softly, and feel a sleepy awe. A second light joke. Bet your barista doesn't whisper. Adenosine blocker, while steaming milk. Sounds like a sci-fi villain, not a latte. Yet here, under these stars, it's the key to coffee's charm. You lean back, the rock cool against your palms, and let your mind wander. What did they call this feeling, before science gave it a name? A blessing? A spirit's touch? You picture villagers sharing stories, their eyes bright, their laughter sharper, all thanks to this tiny molecule. The night feels heavier now, its calm wrapping you like a blanket. You want to dig deeper, to unravel more of coffee's alchemy, but sleep's tugging, gentle as the breeze. The stars blur at the edges, their light softening, urging you onward. You stand, stretching, and step back onto the trail. The shrubs fade behind you, but their promise lingers, a whisper of energy in the dark. The highlands stretch ahead, vast and quiet, and you move forward, the stars your guide, their glow a faint echo of coffee's hidden spark. You meander through the Ethiopian highlands, the stars above casting a silvery sheen over the misty slopes, their light as soft as a whispered secret. The trail beneath your feet is soft earth, speckled with pebbles, and the air carries the faint tang of roasted coffee, a ghost of the feasts and rituals you've left behind. Your path leads to a cluster of huts now, their thatched roofs glowing faintly under the moonlight. From one, a warm flicker escapes, and you hear the low murmur of voices, the clink of stone on stone. You're drawn inside, where women perfect the craft of coffee preparation in the quiet of the night, their hands weaving tradition into every careful motion. You slip past the woven mat at the doorway, the air inside thick with the scent of ground beans and smoldering coals. 3 women sit in a circle on a packed earth floor, their faces lit by a small fire. One grinds coffee with a mortar, her pestle's rhythm steady as a heartbeat. Another sorts roasted beans, discarding husks with deft fingers. The third stirs a clay jabena over the coals, her eyes sharp as steam rises. You settle in a shadowy corner, feeling like an uninvited guest, but the scene's too mesmerizing to leave. A modern aside. Forget your barista's foam art flair, these women are the Og coffee queens. No TikTok tutorial needed. You'd probably fumble the mortar and sneeze in the steam. The mainstream fact is that in ancient Ethiopia, women were often the keepers of coffee preparation, their expertise shaping the drink's cultural role through meticulous, handed-down techniques. The quirky tidbit? Some believed the women's touch infused the brew with a calming essence, like a lullaby in liquid form. Basically, the ultimate ASMR before ASMR was a thing. You watch the grinder's hands, steady and sure, and wonder if there's truth to it. The hut feels like a cocoon of calm. Historians still argue whether this role was purely practical or held spiritual weight. Were women just skilled, or were they seen as coffee's sacred stewards? The fire's glow offers no answers, just warmth. You focus on the grinder, her arms strong from years of this work. The mortar's asterisk scrape thump blends with the night's hum. Crickets outside, the coal's faint hiss. She pauses, sifting the powder, her fingers testing its fineness like an artist checking paint. You think back to the brewer's clay pot, the priestess's sacred cup. Women's hands are everywhere in coffee's story, steadying its rise. A light joke. If you tried this, you'd probably grind your thumb and cry for a Keurig. But here, it's art, each motion a verse in a silent poem. The woman at the asterisk jabena pours now, the dark brew arcing into wooden cups with a precision that makes you blink. She hands one to the sorter, who sips and nods, her face softening. They murmur, their voices low, maybe sharing a story or a joke, and you wish you could join in. The firelight dances, casting their shadows on the walls, and you feel the hut's intimacy, its quiet power. A second light joke. Bet your coffee run doesn't include this kind of sisterhood, unless you count arguing over the last oat milk jug. You notice a basket of beans nearby, their roasted sheen catching the light. The women work in sync, their movements a dance older than the stars outside. You imagine their mothers, grandmothers, doing the same, passing down not just skills but stories, secrets, maybe even that calming essence. The night feels heavier now, its calm sinking into your bones, the jabena's steam a lullaby. You want to stay, to learn their craft, but sleep's tugging, soft as the moonlight spilling through the window. You rise, careful not to disturb the scene, and slip back into the night. The hut's warmth lingers, the women's quiet craft a glowing ember in your mind. The stars guide you forward, their light blurring at the edges, and you step onto the trail, the highlands vast and silent, carrying the whisper of coffee's gentle hands. You glide from the warmth of the hut, the women's quiet coffee craft fading into the Ethiopian night like a soft echo. The stars above twinkle, their light threading through the highlands' cool mist, guiding you along a rugged trail. The air bites gently, laced with the scent of dry grass and the faint, fruity ghost of coffee cherries. You're far from villages now, the path stretching into a wilder stretch of Kaffa, where nomads roam. Their silhouettes flicker against the horizon, staffs in hand, and you're drawn to them, curious about how they use coffee to survive these arid lands under the vast, starlit sky. You catch up to a small band of nomads, their cloaks flapping in the breeze, their herd of goats bleating softly. They're camped in a shallow valley, a tiny fire spitting sparks into the dark. One nomad, a lean man with a weathered face, chews something. Coffee cherries, you realize, spitting pits into the dust. Another boils a crude brew in a dented metal pot, the steam curling like a spirit rising. You settle on a nearby rock, the ground gritty beneath you, and watch. A modern aside. Forget your energy gels, these folks are fueling desert treks with coffee, no barista in sight. You'd probably choke on a pit and beg for a smoothie. The mainstream fact is that nomadic tribes in ancient Ethiopia used coffee as a portable energy source, chewing cherries or brewing simple drinks to sustain long journeys across harsh terrain. The quirky tidbit? Some nomads mixed coffee grounds with ghee, creating a chewy paste they claimed kept them alert for days. Think of it as the original energy bar, but greasier. You imagine trying it, your stomach protesting, and decide your morning latte's a safer bet. Historians still argue whether nomads adopted coffee for survival or ritual. Did they chew it just to stay awake, or was it a sacred act tied to their wanderings? The fire's flicker holds no answers, just questions. You watch the cherry chewer, his jaw working methodically, his eyes scanning the dark for threats. Hyenas, maybe, or rival tribes. He spits another pit, and you notice a small pile at his feet, each one a tiny testament to coffee's power. The brewer stirs his pot, the liquid sloshing, and pours it into a gourd, passing it to a woman nearby. She sips, her face easing, and you feel the drink's magic, even from a distance. A light joke. If you tried this nomadic life, you'd probably trip over a goat and spill the coffee. Hard pass on the desert aesthetic. You think back to the village feast, the women's careful hands. Coffee's a constant here, but out in these wilds, it's a lifeline. The nomads move light, their belongings sparse, yet coffee's a priority, tucked into woven pouches alongside flint and salt. You imagine them trekking under these same stars, the caffeine sharpening their senses, keeping exhaustion at bay. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's to-go cup doesn't survive a week in the desert, unless your barista's secretly a survivalist. The fire dies down, the nomads' voices softening as they share the gourd. You notice their goats, tethered nearby, nibbling at shrubs, maybe even coffee shrubs, echoing Chaldee's tale. The night feels raw out here, the stars sharper, their light cutting through the vastness. You feel a sleepy awe. These nomads aren't just surviving, they're thriving. Coffee their secret weapon against the land's harshness. The brewer sets the pot aside, The gourd passes again, and you sense the group's quiet bond, forged in the dark over a shared sip. You want to stay, to taste that gourd's bitter warmth, but the night's pulling you forward, its calm heavier now. You rise, brushing dust from your hands, and step back onto the trail. The nomad's fire fades, but their resilience lingers, a spark in the dark. The stars guide you, their glow softening, and you wander on, the highlands vast and whispering, carrying coffee's nomadic pulse. You wander from the nomad's flickering fire, their gritty coffee paste and gourd shared brew fading into the Ethiopian night. The stars above gleam like polished coins, their light slicing through the highland's thin air, guiding you toward a new hum of life. The trail beneath your feet turns to packed dirt, the scent of wild coffee cherries now mingling with dust and the sharp tang of sweat. You hear voices ahead, bartering, laughter, the clatter of goods, and spot a bustling market, its stalls lit by torches and moonlight. You're here to witness coffee's rise as a prized good, its buzz transforming dusty trades under the sprawling, starlit sky. You slip into the market's edge, the air alive with chaos and warmth. Traders haggle over piles of dried coffee cherries, their hands gesturing wildly, while others weigh beans on crude scales, balancing them against stones. A woman with braided hair pours a steaming brew from a clay jabena asterisk, offering sips to seal deals. The aroma hits you, bitter, rich, with a hint of earth, and you swear it's waking up the whole market. A modern aside. Forget your coffee shop's loyalty app, this place runs on handshakes and caffeine bribes. You'd probably trade your phone for a cup and call it a steal. The mainstream fact is that by the 10th century, coffee was a valued trade good in Ethiopian markets, exchanged for spices, cloth, and livestock, fueling its spread beyond Kaffa. The quirky tidbit? Some traders used coffee beans as currency, counting them out like coins. Imagine paying for groceries with espresso shots. You watch a man swap a sack of beans for a goat, and grin, picturing your barista's face if you tried that at the counter. Historians still argue whether coffee's market boom was driven by locals or foreign merchants. Did Ethiopians push the trade, or did Yemeni traders spark the demand? The market's din drowns out the answer, leaving only the clink of deals. You weave through the stalls, dodging a stray donkey and a kid chasing a rolling gourd. A trader catches your eye, his table piled with coffee cherries, roasted beans, and even those greasy energy balls you heard about with the nomads. He's loud, hyping his wares like a carnival barker, claiming his beans make the stars dance. You smirk, a light joke. If you tried that sales pitch, you'd probably get laughed out of the farmer's market. But here, it works. Buyers crowd around, sniffing samples, nodding approval. You pause by the asterisk jabena woman, her pour steady as she fills tiny cups. She hands one to a trader, who sips and grins, sealing a deal with a clap. You think back to the women's hut, their careful grinding, the nomad's survival brews. Coffee's journey is everywhere, from quiet rituals to this noisy trade hub. A second light joke. Bet your coffee order doesn't come with a side of goat bartering drama, unless your cafe's got a secret livestock menu. The market pulses, torches flickering, and you feel its energy, even as sleep tugs at your edges. You notice a foreign trader, his robes different, maybe Yemeni, sniffing a handful of beans, his eyes sharp. He's not just buying, he's studying, like he knows coffee's about to change the world. You imagine these beans crossing seas, sparking new markets, new rituals. The stars above seem to nod, their light softer now, as if they've seen this story unfold 1,000 times. You feel a drowsy awe. This market's not just a place, it's a pivot, coffee's leap from local secret to global star. You linger, the market's buzz wrapping you like a blanket, but the night's calling, its calm heavier. You step back, the torch's glow fading, and return to the trail. The stars guide you, their light blurring, and you move forward, the highlands vast and humming, carrying the echo of coffee's market spark. You ease away from the market's clamor, the traders' shouts and the clink of coffee-filled gourds dissolving into the Ethiopian night. The stars above burn gently, their light filtering through wisps of highland mist, guiding you along a quiet trail. The air is cool, tinged with the fading sweetness of coffee cherries and the earthy damp of night. Your footsteps are soft, the path winding toward a rocky outcrop where a lone storyteller sits, his voice weaving myths under the moonlight. You're here to hear conflicting tales about coffee's origins, each one a spark in the dark, clashing softly beneath the endless sky. You settle on a nearby boulder, the stone cold against your palms, and watch the storyteller, his silhouette sharp against the starlight. He's old, his beard flecked with silver, his hands dancing as he speaks to a small group, villagers, maybe, or wanderers like you. His voice is low, hypnotic, spinning a tale of a spirit who planted coffee shrubs to save a starving clan. The listeners murmur, but one shakes her head, insisting Chaldee's goats started it all. You grin, feeling like you've stumbled into a podcast debate, no mic required. A modern aside. Imagine these myths on a Reddit thread, Team Spirit versus Team Goat, downvotes flying. You'd probably just lurk and sip your latte. The mainstream fact is that Ethiopia's coffee origin stories, like Chaldee's tale, are rooted in oral traditions, with variations recorded as early as the 9th century, though none are definitive. The quirky tidbit? One lesser-known myth claims a lightning strike roasted the first beans, teaching humans to mimic the heavens. Basically, nature's barista pulling a cosmic flex. You glance at the sky, half expecting a thunderbolt, but the stars just twinkle, unbothered. Historians still argue whether these myths were meant to explain coffee's power or to claim cultural ownership. Were they teaching tools, or did clans use them to brag about inventing the brew? The storyteller's voice offers no resolution, just layers of wonder. He shifts now, describing a warrior who drank coffee to battle a demon, his strength fueled by the brew. A listener interrupts, claiming a goddess taught women to grind beans, not men. You lean in, the debate's heat pulling you from your drowsiness, though the night's calm keeps you tethered. You think back to the market's buzz, the women's careful hands. Every tale you've heard feels true in its own way, like coffee's too big for one story. A light joke. If you tried spinning a coffee myth, you'd probably say aliens dropped the beans and call it a day. 0 Oscar buzz for that one. The storyteller raises a hand, calming the group, and pours coffee from a gourd, passing it around. The listeners sip, their arguments softening, the brew a quiet peacemaker. You wish for a cup, but you're just a sleepy shadow here, so you settle for the scent drifting your way. Bitter, warm, grounding. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's story hour doesn't include demon battles or lightning roasts, unless your barista's moonlighting as a bard. The stars seem to lean closer, their light softer, as if they're savoring the tales too. You notice the group's diversity, young, old, some in woven cloaks, others in simple wraps, each clinging to their version of coffee's birth. It's not just a drink, it's identity, pride, a spark that lights up their nights. You feel a drowsy awe, the myths clashing like gentle waves, each one shaping coffee's place in these hills. The storyteller starts another tale, but your eyelids droop, the night's weight heavier now, pulling you toward sleep. You rise, brushing imaginary dust from your hands, and step back onto the trail. The outcrop fades, the storyteller's voice a fading hum, but the myths linger, swirling like steam in your mind. The stars guide you forward, their glow blurring at the edges, and you wander on, the highlands vast and whispering, carrying coffee's tangled tales. You slip away from the storyteller's rocky outcrop, the clashing myths of coffee's origins fading into the Ethiopian night like a distant song. The stars above glow with a quiet insistence, their light weaving through the highlands' cool mist, guiding you along a path of loose stones and tangled roots. The air carries the faint musk of damp earth, spiked with the ghostly sweetness of coffee cherries. You hear a rhythmic clink now, metal on wood, steady as a pulse, and follow it to a small workshop, where artisans craft better tools for roasting and brewing, their hands shaping coffee's future under the starlit sky. You pause at the workshop's edge, a lean-to of woven reeds and mud walls, open to the night. Inside, 2 artisans work by the glow of a small fire, their faces etched with focus. One hammers a flat stone into a smoother roasting pan, sparks flying with each strike. The other carves a wooden handle for a new Jabena asterisk, her knife shaving curls that catch the moonlight. The air smells of charred wood and roasted beans, a blend that pulls you in. A modern aside. Forget your sleek coffee gadgets, these folks are upgrading the game with sticks and stones. You'd probably chip the pan and cry for a factory reset. The mainstream fact is that ancient Ethiopians gradually improved coffee tools, moving from basic stones to specialized pans and pots by the 10th century, making roasting and brewing more efficient. The quirky tidbit? Some artisans believed their tools inherited the spirit of the coffee they processed, and a well-crafted pan could sing with the bean's energy. Think of it as the original smart appliance, minus the Wi-Fi. You watch the hammerer test his pan, its surface gleaming, and half expected to hum a tune. Historians still argue whether these tool advancements were driven by necessity or ritual. Did artisans innovate to save time, or to honor coffee's sacred role? The fire's flicker holds no clear answer, just shadows. You step closer, the clinking tools a soothing rhythm against the night's hum. Crickets, a distant owl, the rustle of leaves. The carver sets her jabena aside, its spout curved like a bird's beak, and tests its balance, nodding approval. You marvel at her precision, each cut deliberate, born of years refining what the brewer's crude pot started. You think back to the women's grinding, the nomad's dented pot. Coffee's tools are evolving, but the heart's the same. A light joke. If you tried this craft, you'd probably carve a spoon and call it avant-garde. 0 Etsy sales for that one. The hammerer places his pan over the fire, scattering beans across it. They sizzle, their aroma sharpening, and you inhale deeply, the scent grounding you even as sleep tugs. He stirs with a stick, his movements practiced, like a chef coaxing a dish to life. You imagine the trial and error, burnt batches, cracked pans, before they got it right. A second light joke. Bet your coffee maker's auto brew button doesn't have this kind of soul, unless it's secretly haunted by an artisan's ghost. The carver starts another handle, her knife flashing, and you feel the workshop's quiet power, its creations fueling coffee's rise. You notice a pile of older tools, cracked stones, warped gourds, stacked in a corner, relics of earlier days. The artisans don't glance at them, they're focused forward, building something better. You feel a drowsy awe. These tools aren't just objects, they're steps in a story, each one easing coffee's path from shrub to sip. The stars above seem to nod, their light softer now, blurring at the edges as the night grows heavier. You want to stay, to watch another pan take shape, but the path calls, its pull gentle as the breeze. You step back, the workshop's clink fading, but its craft lingers, a spark in the dark. The stars guide you forward, their glow a whisper of coffee's evolving tools, and you wander on, the highlands vast and silent, carrying the echo of artisan hands. You drift from the artisan's workshop, the clink of their tools softening into the Ethiopian night, like pebbles sinking into a still pond. The stars above gleam gently, their light threading through the highland's misty veil, guiding you along a path of soft earth and scattered grasses. The air is cool, tinged with the faint sweetness of coffee cherries and the smoky warmth of distant fires. You hear murmurs now, soft laughter, the clink of cups, and find yourself drawn to a village gathering, where coffee strengthens bonds in a quiet ceremony, its warmth weaving community under the vast, starlit sky. You settle at the edge of a small clearing, where villagers sit in a loose circle on woven mats, a low fire casting flickers across their faces. A woman pours coffee from a clay jabena asterisk, its steam curling like a spirit in the moonlight. She hands cups to her neighbors, their fingers brushing, their smiles soft. The aroma hits you, deep, earthy, with a hint of caramel, and it's like a hug in vapor form. A modern aside. Forget your coffee shop's Wi-Fi and solo tables, this is connection, raw and real. You'd probably spill your cup trying to match their grace and beg for a to-go lid. The mainstream fact is that coffee ceremonies in ancient Ethiopia were vital social rituals, often led by women, fostering unity through shared brews and hours of conversation. The quirky tidbit? Some gatherings included a coffee oath, where drinkers swore loyalty to their clan over a cup, like a caffeinated pinky promise. Break it, and you're cursed with bad brews forever. You watch the villagers sip, their ease infectious, and wonder if they're secretly pledging anything. Historians still argue whether these ceremonies were primarily social or subtly political. Did they just build trust, or were they a way to seal alliances? The fire's glow offers no clarity, just comfort. You focus on the pourer, her movements deliberate, her eyes warm as she refills a cup. She's the heart of this circle, her jabena a quiet conductor of the night's rhythm. You think back to the women's hut, their careful grinding, the market's bustling trades. Coffee's always knitting people together, from nomads to neighbors. A light joke. If you hosted this, you'd probably overpour and start a coffee flood. Good luck explaining that to the village elders. The villagers pass a basket of roasted beans, sniffing them, nodding, their chatter a soft hum that blends with the crickets outside. One man tells a story, his hands waving, describing a harvest saved by a timely rain. A woman counters with a tale of a lost child found near a coffee grove, guided by its scent. You lean in, the fire's crackle weaving through their words, and feel your eyelids droop, the night's calm sinking deeper. The coffee's working its magic, not waking, but soothing, tying the group in a shared, drowsy warmth. A second light joke. Bet your barista's decaf option doesn't come with this kind of storytelling, unless they're hiding a saga behind the espresso machine. You notice the group's ease, the way they lean toward each other, their laughter light but genuine. A child curls up in an elder's lap, half asleep, clutching a tiny cup. You feel a pang of envy. This is community, distilled into sips and stories, something your rushed mornings can't touch. The stars above seem to soften, their light blurring, as if they're savoring the scene too. You think of Chaldee's goats, the shaman's smoky ritual. Coffee's been binding people from the start, a glue older than these hills. You want to join, to taste that brew and share a tale, but sleep's tugging, gentle as the breeze. You rise, brushing imaginary grass from your knees, and step back into the dark. The gathering's warmth lingers, the jabena's steam a fading whisper in your mind. The stars guide you forward, their glow a quiet echo of coffee's social spark, and you wander on, the highlands vast and hushed, carrying the memory of shared cups. You glide away from the village gathering, the soft clink of coffee cups and murmured stories dissolving into the Ethiopian night. The stars above shimmer like scattered pearls, their light piercing the highlands' cool mist, guiding you along a path of rocky soil and tangled shrubs. The air bites gently, laced with the faint sweetness of coffee cherries and the distant musk of livestock. You sense a shift now, a tension in the breeze, as if the hills themselves are whispering of change. You're moving toward the edges of Kaffa, where rival tribes eye Ethiopia's coffee secrets, their curiosity sparking under the vast, starlit sky. You crest a low ridge, the landscape opening to reveal a foreign encampment below, a cluster of hide tents, their shapes stark against the moonlight. These aren't Kaffa locals, their cloaks are heavier, their spears tipped with unfamiliar designs. You spot a scout sniffing a handful of stolen coffee cherries, his eyes narrowing as he chews. The air feels charged, like the moment before a storm, and you settle behind a boulder, watching. A modern aside. Forget corporate espionage, these folks are pulling off the original coffee heist, no NDAs required. You'd probably trip over a tent peg and blow their cover. The mainstream fact is that by the 10th century, neighboring tribes and early Arabian traders began coveting Ethiopia's coffee, with some raiding groves or bartering for beans, accelerating its spread. The quirky tidbit? One tribe reportedly tried to bribe Kaffa farmers with rare shells to reveal coffee's cultivation tricks. Think of it as ancient Kickstarter funding, but with more sneaking. You watch the scout spit a pit, his face a mix of awe and scheming, and grin, imagining him offering a shiny conch for a shrub. Historians still argue whether these rivals learned coffee's secrets through trade or theft. Did they negotiate fairly, or just swipe and run? The encampment's silence holds no answers, just shadows. You edge closer, the firelight flickering across the tents. A leader, his voice low, gestures at a sack of beans, likely pilfered from a Kaffa grove. His men nod, their hands tightening on spears, and you feel the weight of their ambition. Coffee's not just a drink, it's power, a key to sleepless nights and sharper trades. You think back to the market's buzz, the nomad's survival brews. Kaffa's gift is spreading, but not always by choice. A light joke. If you were a rival, you'd probably steal one bean and plant it wrong. Congrats, you've got a nice fern now. The scout kneels, grinding a few beans with a stone, mimicking what he's seen in Kaffa. His brew is clumsy, the water sloshing in a crude pot, but the aroma rises, sharp and familiar. You inhale, the scent tugging at memories of the women's hut, the shaman's ritual. These rivals are outsiders, yet coffee's pulling them in, weaving them into its story. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's bean origin label doesn't mention stolen by moonlight. Kinda kills the ethical sourcing vibe. The men sip the brew, their faces lighting up, and you sense a spark. Coffee's about to leap borders, whether Kaffa likes it or not. You notice a Kaffa spy, barely visible in the shrubs, watching the camp with narrowed eyes. The tension's palpable, a silent tug of war over these beans. You feel a drowsy awe. This isn't just a raid, it's a pivot, coffee's first step toward the world. The stars above seem to flicker, their light softer, as if wary of the change. The night grows heavier, sleeps pull stronger, but you linger, caught by the drama unfolding in the dark. You rise, brushing imaginary dust from your hands, and slip back to the trail. The encampment fades, but its tension lingers, a ripple in coffee's tail. The stars guide you forward, their glow blurring, and you wander on, the highlands vast and whispering, carrying the echo of rival eyes. You steal away from the rival encampment, the sharp whispers of their coffee theft fading into the Ethiopian night. The stars above glow with a tender insistence, their light weaving through the highlands' misty air, guiding you along a path of soft loam and scattered stones. The breeze carries the faint sweetness of wild coffee cherries, now tinged with the earthy weight of memory. You're nearing the heart of Kaffa again, where the land itself seems to hum with coffee's enduring mark. You're here to reflect on its legacy, a story etched in these hills under the vast, starlit sky, binding past to present in a gentle, drowsy embrace. You pause by a grove of coffee shrubs, their leaves rustling softly, their red cherries catching moonlight like tiny beacons. You kneel, running your fingers through the rich soil, its warmth a quiet testament to centuries of growth. The night feels alive. Crickets chirp, a distant hyena laughs, but it's the shrubs that hold you, their roots deep in Ethiopia's soul. A modern aside. Forget your coffee shop's single origin. Hype this grove's the real deal, brewing history in every bean. You'd probably plant a shrub in your backyard and get nothing but weeds. The mainstream fact is that Ethiopia remains the genetic cradle of *Coffea arabica*, with its coffee culture shaping global traditions, from Turkish brews to Italian espresso, traceable to these highlands. The quirky tidbit? Some Kaffa locals still perform coffee blessings before harvests, sprinkling grounds on the earth to thank the spirits. Think of it as a caffeinated thank you note to nature. You scatter imaginary grounds, half expecting a cosmic nod, but the stars just twinkle, serene. Historians still argue whether coffee's cultural staying power comes from its rituals or its economics. Did its sacred roots keep it alive, or was it always about trade? The grove's silence offers no verdict, just peace. You rise, wandering deeper, the shrubs giving way to a clearing where a lone elder sits, sipping from a wooden cup. His eyes, creased with time, meet yours, or seem to, though you're just a sleepy shadow. He murmurs, maybe to you, maybe to the night, about coffee's journey, from Chaldees' goats to distant markets, from shamans' fires to rival hands. You think back to the women's grinding, the nomad's gritty pace, the market's buzz. Every moment you've seen pulses here, in this elder's quiet sip. A light joke. If you tried summing up coffee's legacy, you'd probably ramble for hours and bore everyone. Good thing you're not on TED Talk duty. You sit, the grass cool beneath you, and let the elder's words wash over you. He speaks of coffee as a gift, not just to Kaffa but to the world, a spark that warms hearts across seas. You feel its weight, not heavy but grounding, like the aftertaste of a perfect brew. The stars seem closer now, their light softer, as if they've watched this legacy unfold for millennia. A second light joke. Bet your barista's bean story doesn't hit like this, unless they're secretly reciting epic poetry behind the counter. You notice the elder's cup, its wood worn smooth, a relic of countless ceremonies. It's a symbol, like the Jabena asterisk, the mortar, the stolen beans, a thread tying Ethiopia to every coffee sipped today. You feel a drowsy awe. This isn't just a drink's tale but a human one, of discovery, craft, and connection. The night grows heavier, sleeps pull stronger, yet you linger, caught by the elder's calm, the grove's quiet power. The stars blur, their glow a lullaby, urging you toward rest. You stand, brushing imaginary dirt from your hands, and step back to the path. The elder's voice fades, but coffee's legacy glows, a warm ember in your mind. The stars guide you forward, their light softening, and you wander on, the highlands vast and hushed, carrying the whisper of coffee's eternal mark. You drift from the elder's quiet clearing, the weight of coffee's legacy settling into your bones like a warm, familiar hum. The stars above flicker softly, their light now faint, as if bowing to the first whispers of dawn. The Ethiopian highlands stretch around you, their slopes cloaked in mist, the air cool and heavy with the scent of earth and fading coffee cherries. Your path is barely a suggestion now, a thread of trampled grass winding through Kaffa's heart. You're here to watch the stars dim, to let coffee's story lull you into sleep, as the night fades gently under the sky's tender glow. You find a soft patch of ground, nestled among wild coffee shrubs, their leaves brushing your arms like a sleepy caress. You lie back, the earth cradling you, its warmth seeping through your imaginary cloak. The stars are fewer now, their edges blurred, but they still hold you, each one a pinprick of the tale you've wandered through. You breathe deeply, the air a mix of dew and that nutty coffee ghost, and feel the night's calm wrap you tight. A modern aside. Forget your weighted blanket, this highland nap spot's the ultimate sleep hack. You'd probably oversleep and miss your Zoom call. The mainstream fact is that Ethiopia's coffee culture, born in these hills, remains a living tradition, with modern ceremonies echoing ancient ones, tying past to present through every sip. The quirky tidbit? Some Kaffa elders say drinking coffee at dawn greets the stars farewell, a poetic way to end the night. Imagine your barista pitching that with your morning brew. You glance at the sky, the stars fading, and feel a pang of connection, like you're part of their goodbye. Historians still argue whether coffee's enduring rituals are about nostalgia or resilience. Do they persist for love, or because they've weathered every storm? The dawn's hush offers no answer, just peace. You think back to Chaldee's prancing goats, the shaman's smoky fires, the women's steady hands. Every moment weaves into this quiet end. The shrubs around you rustle, their cherries glinting faintly, and you imagine their roots drinking deep, carrying centuries of stories. A light joke. If you tried napping here for real, you'd probably wake up with a goat nibbling your hair, cute, but not your vibe. The night's weight is softer now, sleep's pull undeniable, like a tide drawing you under. You close your eyes, the stars' last flickers dancing behind your lids. The highlands hum, a cricket's chirp, a breeze's sigh, and you feel coffee's story settle, not as a buzz but a lullaby. The elder's words echo, his talk of coffee as a gift, and you smile, drowsy, knowing it's warmed you tonight. A second light joke. Bet your coffee shop's closing time doesn't feel this poetic, unless they're sweeping to a harp soundtrack. The dawn's first gray brushes the horizon, and you let go, the earth holding you, the stars whispering good night. Wind down. And so, you rest here, cradled by the highlands, the tale of coffee's ancient roots now a gentle weight, easing you toward dreams. The shrubs stand sentinel, their leaves whispering secrets only the stars know, their cherries fading into shadow as dawn's soft fingers trace the hills. You don't need to chase the story anymore, it's part of you, a warm thread woven through your sleepy thoughts. The night's hum softens, the crickets slower, the breeze a tender sigh against your skin. You're safe here, in this moment, where time feels like a friend, not a rush. Let the stars slip away, their light a final gift, carrying you to a place of quiet, boundless rest. Sleep now, deeply, and let the highlands hold you, their coffee-scented calm a whisper that all is well.